All right, so we love it when you send in stuff for us to check out. And this time we got this info on the SMX CNC Pressure Roller System. It's piqued our interest, for CNC material hold down, especially when vacuum tables, kind of reach their limits.
Yeah, those vacuum tables, they're great, but there are some situations where they just
don't cut it.
Yeah, exactly. They don't cut it. So we're going to dive into this roller system, figure out how it works, and, maybe can help some people out there who are dealing with those, tricky materials and looking for a way to be more efficient.
Yeah, and you know what I'm thinking about specifically?
Oh, yeah.
Those warped materials you get sometimes? Those,
oh, yeah,
uneven or porous materials? I mean, that's got to be a huge headache, right?
It is a pain. And, it leads to wasted time, wasted material. It's frustrating,
Absolutely. And this SMX system, at least from what I'm reading here, it seems like it offers a completely different way to, clamp these materials down.
Yeah, it's a whole different approach.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, it could be a real game changer.
Okay, so let's start with, maybe some of the basics here. This warped material problem that we were just talking about. The information, suggests that these rollers can, really grip the material firmly, even where a vacuum system might struggle.
Right. Think about it this way. A vacuum table needs a nice, smooth, flat surface to create that seal. But what happens when you have a piece of plywood and it's a little bit, warped?
It's going to be a problem.
It could be a big problem. The vacuum's not going to seal properly, and your piece is going to move around. And that can lead to all sorts of issues. Inaccurate cuts, wasted material, you name it. But with these rollers, they're not relying on a vacuum. They're providing that constant mechanical pressure from above.
So it's almost like having a helper pushing down on the material constantly.
Exactly. An extra set of hands, but they never get tired. So even if you have a board that's a little wonky, those rollers are going to keep it in place.
And that's got to be a huge time saver, right? Because if you're not having to, scrap pieces of material because they're a little bit warped.
You're saving money, too.
Yeah.
You're not throwing away those expensive sheets of plywood. And you're not spending extra time trying to flatten them out or find a good piece.
I see. So what about speed, though? Because, I know a lot of people are trying to, get the most out of their CNC machines, run them as fast as possible. Does this system, slow things down at all?
But actually, it's quite the opposite. Because you have this constant downward force, it actually allows you to cut faster without sacrificing accuracy.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. When your material's held down really securely, you can push your CNC machine a little harder. You don't have to worry about it, vibrating or chattering because the material's moving around.
That makes sense. So you could actually potentially increase your output then with this.
Absolutely. And depending on the material and the type of cut you're making, people are seeing increases in speed of, 15%, 20%, sometimes even more.
Wow. That's significant.
Yes, it can really add up over time.
Okay, so here's something that really jumped out at me when I was reading this. It mentions, the possibility of doubling your production because you can cut 2 sheets of material at once for identical parts.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
So, imagine, instead of running the same job twice, you just do it once.
You cut your production time in half.
Yeah.
And think about it. You're not just saving time on the actual cutting. You're saving time on setup. You're saving time on tool wear. Even energy consumption goes down.
You're right.
It's a huge efficiency boost, especially if you're doing production work where you need a lot of identical parts.
And it sounds like, besides all these efficiency gains, there's also the benefit of reduced waste, right?
Absolutely. Because your material is held so securely, there's less shifting during the cutting process, which means you're going to have fewer errors and you're going to waste less material.
Yeah, that just makes good sense.
And that goes straight to your bottom line. Material waste can be a huge cost for a shop, especially if you're working with expensive materials.
Right. And if you can reduce that waste even a little bit.
It adds up.
It adds up.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like this isn't just for wood either, right? This system can handle, a variety of materials. You've got porous materials, non-porous materials, things like plastics, even felt.
Yeah, that's one of the big advantages of the system over a traditional vacuum table. A vacuum table needs that seal. So if you have a porous material like, MDF or something, it's going to be really hard to get a good seal.
And what about plastics?
Plastics could be tricky too, because they might not have the right surface texture for the vacuum to grip. And that's where the rollers come in. They don't care if the material is porous or not. They're just going to apply that consistent pressure and hold it in place.
Interesting. So it really opens up a lot of possibilities for people who are working with, a variety of different
It
materials.
does. It gives you a lot more flexibility.
Okay, last thing here. Installation. Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, plug and play.
Compatible with existing CNC tables.
No permanent modifications needed. You can even remove the rollers if you need to save space.
Okay, so it's not like you're stuck with this thing once you put it on your CNC.
Exactly. It's very adaptable. You can use it when you need it, and you can take it off when you don't.
So really, it sounds like this SMX CNC pressure roller system, it's not about replacing vacuum tables. It's more about, complementing them,
Yeah.
addressing those weaknesses that vacuum tables have and potential allowing people to be, way more productive.
That's a great way to put it. It's about having the right tool for the job. Sometimes a vacuum table is perfect, but sometimes you need a little something extra, and that's where the rollers come in.
I like it. All right, so we've covered a lot here. We've talked about how this system can handle work materials, increase cutting speeds, reduce waste, and, it seems like it's just a really versatile solution for CNC material hold down.
It really is. I think for a lot of people, it could be a real game changer.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive, and I hope everyone listening has, maybe gotten some ideas for how they can improve their own CNC processes. So as you think about all this, I want you to consider the specific materials you work with every day. And think about those hold down challenges you face. Could something like this system, make a difference for you? Could it help you be more efficient, reduce your waste, and just make your workflow smoother? It's definitely something to explore. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.